heard member stories of Mentor My Board, where all the pillars of good governance, whether they are promoters, whether they are independent directors, whether they are executive directors, CEOs, CFOs, CXOs, play their crucial roles. Mentor My Board today is a brand known to the Finance Minister of India, and we launch various initiatives like the Boardroom Mastery Certification Program, the WOM program for women on management and boards, Ideal program for independent directors, education and learning, so on and so forth. We believe in continuous learning, and that's where our Board Tattva series and the coffee meets come to picture. So these are kind of regular events and sessions that we do for the members of Mentor My Board. Blogs, videos, and various resource materials is what you can find on the platform of Mentor My Board. Hence, I invite all of you to join us in this momentum of good governance by logging into the platform of Mentor My Board at www.mentormyboard.com, where we strive to create a community of 1 lakh directors with us so that they have those kind of opportunities of becoming board members of tomorrow. The platform of Mentor My Board acts as an enabler to spread across Pan India. And with this sole motive, we have come up with this member spotlight series as well, which focuses on recognizing growth and credibility of our members. Today, let me welcome Mr. Raghavan N in this member spotlight series with us.
Hello.
Hello, Mr.
Hi.
Raghavan.
Hi.
Hi. Let me give the audience a short introduction about your background. So, Mr. Raghavan is a senior executive professional with over 30 years of experience in the automotive and the industrial sectors. He holds multiple certifications in corporate governance, independent directorship, digital transformation, ESG also. He has a major business transformational initiative at Lucas India Services Limited, a leading provider of aftermarket solutions in India. His core competencies include strategy development and deployment, P&L management, operations, business management, business development, etc. He has a proven track record basically, and has been delivering operational excellence in the process and improvements. So welcome to you, and we would be happy to hear from you about your journey. How has been your journey till date?
Thank you. Thank you, Neha. Thank you for having me here. The way I would like to start is today, I'm heading a company, I'm running a business for the company, but the journey started in a small town in southern part of India. And I have kind of grown through the socialistic India. Then it is getting liberalized, and then making strides in terms of economic growth and development. Also, having worked in the public sector as well as in the private sector, and across industries, starting from oil and gas, then moved into engineering, capital equipment, and now in the automotive components industry. And this company is actually a leading automotive aftermarket company with a very rich history, established in 1930 as a British company. Then it became part of the TVS group, and now it is part of the Lucas TVS group. And we have pan India presence for a South India based company. We probably have more non-Tamil speaking employees on our roll than any other company which can boast of. We are present in more than 30 locations in India, almost every state you can say roughly.
Wow,
And
that's amazing.
yeah, so in the context of Mentor My Board, what I would like to share is, since we are talking about independent directors and then their capabilities and then the number of directors required, etc., and the dire need for high standards of corporate governance, which also integrates all the environmental and social issues into the business strategy. So I would like to probably briefly share. I'm an engineer, trained in management. Okay, and then having done multiple certifications, not from the point of view of accumulating certificates, But as and when I was embarking on some project, when I felt there was a need for me to learn something, some conceptual knowledge is required when you start getting physically and practically into certain work. And that's how I acquired this digital transformation or ESG related certification, etc.
Okay.
So my limited point here is an independent director has to come from a very rounded kind of a background with a variety of experiences she or he exposed to, and having an open mind to learn at any time anybody, so that they can contribute to the improvement of the business for which they are associated with the board. So that's the point I'm trying to communicate.
That's awesome. That's amazing. In fact, you've given us just the right tone to, set across the entire discussion. And thank you for doing so. So I understand that you have a very diverse and, a very cross cultural kind of an experience. And if you can share some of and examples from the specific business transformation that initiatives that you would have undertaken at Lucas India Services Limited, and then what was the impact that it had on the company's performance as well?
Right. I mean, in fact, uh, see, any company of this longevity obviously has something going good for it, right? See, no companies survives 93 years without something being fundamentally good. But sometimes what also happens is there are certain things which are repeatedly done, and we don't question it. Almost becomes a tradition in a certain way. Whereas the customer preferences change all over the place. Okay, say for example, in automotive industry, if I take as an example, the auto components industry is dependent on the number of vehicles produced. Okay, so today, while the commercial vehicle population is increasing because the road network is improving and the goods transport is becoming faster and more efficient, and it is improving, and car population is also increasing. However, there is a subtle shift from owning a car versus Uberizing it. Say, for example, I can always avail the service rather than owning an asset. In bigger
True.
cities, it also becomes very difficult to even find a parking place. So it is better that you use a service rather than a vehicle. So there is a shift in that area. Then the electrification, that is the mobility changing from the IC engine vehicles to the electric mobility. That is also putting pressure on the component industry to change. And since Amazon, Flipkart kind of companies have come, and then everything is available online, even people who consume our kind of products and services expect online presence.
Oh, okay.
So there is a level of expectation that whatever I get in Amazon, the way I get, I should be getting it in this space as well. So from that point of view,
True.
there is a certain amount of expectation coming from the customer. So it is very important for us to understand these undercurrents and then transform ahead of time, so that we can experiment, grow, and scale up all that. So that's the need for the transformation. But come COVID, two things came to the fore because the ESG became far more relevant and mainstream post COVID. Okay, the sustainability theme has been around. I mean, the UNDP has been talking about sustainability for quite some time, and I mean, the need for sustainability, the seeds were sown sometime somewhere around 1970. There is a
True.
book written by the Club of Rome, The Limits to Growth, where the MIT graduates from Massachusetts Institute of Technology came together, created a mathematical model, and told that if we are going to have unlimited consumption and unlimited production, the earth is not going to withstand this. So there is a
True.
limit. So things are going to burst out. So this became far more pronounced during the COVID time, especially from the yes, that is a social angle. Okay, there was so much of misery on road, there was so much of misery in and around. So everybody started waking up and then started saying that we need to be conducting our businesses responsibly. So the From sustainability, it started becoming responsible business conduct, and now the ESG framework is slowly emerging. And hopefully, in about 40 days, we will have the COP28 summit in Dubai. So hopefully, something more concrete would come out of it, and more nations would participate, more parties would participate in that. So this brings in a completely different dimension to the board as well as the independent directors. Essentially, because hitherto the boards were more focused on maximizing the returns for the shareholders. Right now, all stakeholders become important, especially the communities in which the businesses are operating, and the
True.
people that we work with, the people we employ, the people we deal with, and customers all become important. The human element has become extremely important. To achieve that, unless there is transparency, unless there is a certain amount of voluntary involvement in terms of disclosures, and then improving the standards of production, etc., and the standards of living of the people working for us, or people living in and around our communities, this cannot be achieved, because this is almost like a paradoxical goal. If you take the case of India, we need to grow because we are still developing. We need to grow. The
True.
development would mean that we would require more power plants, more power consumption, per capita consumption would go up. At the same time, we need to decarbonize. So it almost looks like an impossible question, but it is possible because technology makes it possible. So what I'm trying to say is, from the labs, now it has become a boardroom issue. Now the corporate strategy has to include this in designing the businesses, devising the strategies and implementing them and getting the results. It is not only the return on investment for the shareholders, not the earning per share alone anymore. It is important, but along with that, how are we getting into this ESG aspect of it is far more important than ever before.
Very true, very true. And I truly agree that, ESG is becoming more kind of a repetitive discussion in the boardrooms, which is very essential in the economy today. So as for our government to, reach that target of net zero by maybe 2050 or whatever. But it's really an essential topic that the boardrooms must discuss now. And top 1,000 companies being mandated on, submitting their BRSR reports. I'm sure this will percolate down in the system as well from the next year and so on and so forth. So, yes, it is an important topic and you really highlighted it so well. Thank you for it. So, just to add on to this, in your extensive career, so what do you consider as your most significant achievement in terms of, what has been your performance, the company's performance, I mean, and the impact that you've created, kind of thing?
And I was
Or
fortunate
kind
enough.
those operational excellence things that that I was reading out in your profile, the process improvements and the automotive in this automotive and industrial sector.
Yeah, see, I was fortunate enough to work in companies and situations where there was scope for participation and improving. Okay, so, and therefore, you see, the improvement starts with, it's not a big bang kind of a, suddenly you invent something, and then from where we were, where we wanted to go, you overnight change into an Aladdin's magic. So luckily, I got associated with the concept of total quality management, which is a Japanese management concept as well as a practice, which puts the customer right in the center of the business. Okay,
True.
so whatever you deliver to the customer, how do you deliver the appropriate quality at the appropriate cost and the appropriate speed? I'm using the word appropriate because the quality as defined by the Japanese is defined by as accepted by the customer. Okay, it is not
True.
something absolute, so it is as accepted by the customer. But quality does not mean that the cost goes up or speed comes down. So how do you achieve all this together without losing touch with the humanness of the customer interaction? End of the day, the customer experience is far more important than anything else. You may have the best of the product, but your touch points are so painful that the customer feels extremely difficult to deal with you. Then the experience is lost. The product would never fly. So
I agree.
at every step of the way, whether it is designing the product or making it or delivering it or post delivery, how do you ensure that the customer uses it right? So I had an opportunity to work on multiple things early on. So how do you do the improvement in sales process? Say, for example, how do we really reduce the pain of the customer in reaching out to us? I mean, I'm talking about the era where we did not have internet, we did not have cell phones, we did not have, we had only the black color phones on some manager's table, and even in those days customers had to reach out to some companies. So how do you ease out their pain? So that is one level of process improvement. From there, so as the businesses expand, finding talent, developing them, deploying them rightly, and extracting the right value out of them in a manner that they feel valued and they feel part of the whole team. So every step of the way, there is an opportunity for process improvement, and and it is always a continuous improvement. It is not, like I said, a big bang, a kind of a jump. It is always a continuous improvement on a daily basis. So you look at certain deficiencies or gaps, and then how do you work on them, understand what causes it, and eliminate it so that things keep improving. Now again, I'm keep coming back to ESG essentially because that is the need of the hour more than it is a fad. It is the need of the hour. So uh, ESG also can be dealt with through TQM far more effectively, in my opinion. Instead of putting only customer at the center of the business, we can put all the relevant stakeholders at the center of the business. When we are
Very true.
deciding the materiality of certain issues, okay, whether it is an environmental issue or a social issue or a governance issue, so we put the relevant stakeholder in the middle and then design the processes around that and start improving on it. I think we would integrate the sustainability goals into corporate strategy and deliver far more higher value than what we are delivering today.
Right, right, right. So for that also the board upskilling the entire, so as you mentioned, you always took up upskilling, you always kept on learning new things while you were doing something and which was not known to you. So the board upskilling is also equally important in that facet, I'm sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. See, look at this. The economic necessity of an initiative like Mentor My Board is it's a moot point. Okay, it need not be elaborated, but I am still elaborating. We want to become a $5 trillion economy. Okay, which
True.
means not a few companies are going to help in achieving that. There are going to
Exactly.
be multitude of startups, multitude of MSME companies, which are going to be contributing in that journey, and even the mid-sized companies, the large companies. The approach to this whole game needs to change, and that change can come only through the transformation of the board. Okay, unless the board takes proactive steps in bringing sustainability issues, inclusivity issues, equity issues, and the governance to manage all this in an appropriate manner, the 5 trillion journey will also create a lot of pain points for the economy in general and specifically for various stakeholders.
Very true, very true. And just to back your statement with the data, so what we've seen across is that there are around 7 crore, businesses in India, and out of which only uh, somewhere around 9,000 to 10,000 companies are listed on exchanges. So there is a huge gap into corporatization itself. And when we are talking about the 10 trillion economy and the, growth of that kind, there is a huge scope of corporatization that has to come up in this. So definitely the role of the board and the role of the operational activities, sorry, the non-operational activities in the boardrooms with respect to the strategic decision making in the boardrooms has to happen effectively, so as that we can contribute in the right way to the right direction. Totally agree to what you're saying. So as you have been uh, you have said that you have a notable success in developing and maintaining an OEM relationships, and how is it that you contribute to the business growth and sustainability?
In an automotive business ecosystem, so OE plays a very, very important and pivotal role because the vehicle manufacturers provide three important things. One is the technology, okay, per se. Then the quality systems, okay, from tier one to tier two to tier three. Okay, so the entire value chain quality system, which gets kind of solidified by the push of the OEMs. And the third important thing is they are focused on the customer service, that the entire total cost of ownership of the vehicle needs to be at a certain level for them to be competitive in the market. At the same time, safety is of a very high importance. So the aspects of safety, health, environment, plus the quality systems, this gets built into the ecosystem. So therefore, working with an OE is very, very important for any company in the automotive ecosystem to upgrade themselves to a certain level of quality, safety, etc. And it also provides a fair amount of stability when it comes to volumes. Okay, when you are
Okay.
a tier one supplier and you need to have certain capacity utilizations, etc. Without having a OE relationship, the factories cannot survive, right? So therefore, that is extremely important, and therefore, working with OEs proactively in understanding what are the different types of platforms that they will be bringing out, and how a company can work with them together in developing it together is an important part of a successful automotive component company strategy.
Agreed, agreed. So, you, as a person who is deeply involved in the corporate governance, right? How do you ensure the highest level of standards of ethics, transparency? We spoke about OEMs. So, how do you, actually ensure those highest level of standards in the professional roles?
Uh, it starts with the self. Okay, so if I talk about standards, I need to display standards. If I talk
So
about
put.
ethics, if I
Yes.
talk about ethics, I need to display ethics. So number one is being impartial. Okay, so right is right, wrong is wrong, but at the same time, communicating that in a manner that the other person doesn't get completely demotivated. That is also important because
True.
many cases willful defaulters need to be dealt with in a manner appropriate, whereas mistakes cannot be dealt with the same tone. So therefore, opportunity for people to correct and grow is as equally important. Otherwise, we will run out of people to work with. Okay, so it's a kind of a balance, but there are certain things which are non-negotiable. Okay, so like as a group, as a company, as an individual, personal integrity, ethics, and dealing with people in an appropriate manner is very, very important from that point of view. So display it where you see a gap, help improve it, and if there is a problem in understanding, help understand. Problem in accepting, then change the person. There's no other option.
Agreed, agreed. So we've talked so much about ESG, and I see that you're so passionate about it as well. Can we have a discussion on how you've integrated these sustainability initiatives into your leadership roles, and what kind of impact it has created on the organization and on the people whom you were with?
In our ecosystem, what is more important is on the two aspects of ESG, which is S and G. We are a company of people, and most companies are companies of people. It is a community of people who come together to deliver certain results. So, how do we, first of all, ensure that people are included? Okay, both in terms of decision making and in furthering the growth of the business, etc. So that is extremely important, and it is a leadership, uh, I would say, a role and a responsibility, because it can't be expected from bottom up. It has to be top down, because that has to
True.
be displayed. If I don't include, and I can't expect somebody at a different level to be inclusive. And so, in my opinion, whether it is my company or any other company, the social issues within the company and the communities where we operate, where if you are able to create a harmonious atmosphere. I mean, a harmonious atmosphere does not mean that we have a kind of a country club atmosphere. We don't condone slackness, or we don't condone some shoddy output, etc. What needs to be pulled up needs to be pulled up, but there is a way, that the appropriate way of allowing people to understand and then correct and grow, and also be inclusive. So that is one aspect. The second important aspect is the governance. Okay, so the governance aspect starts with, see, the governance is not compliance. Okay, compliance is about you have certain set of rules, so you tick a box. So have I complied with or not? But governance is about, am I setting the right rules in line with the stakeholders' requirement, which is obviously legal on a given date and ethical as well. So setting that up and then maintaining it, because what, like, probably we have one of the best written criminal procedure codes, even the civil codes, but in practice we know where the gaps are. So writing the best code is possible, but adhering to it is sometimes difficult. So how do we really create an environment whereby these high ethical standards, high standards of governance are maintained, okay, and practiced by everybody without having to enforce it? So that is a
True.
leadership role that cannot be done at, and when I say leadership, it is not limited only to the board, because there are leaders at every level. Whoever is
Yes,
managing at least one person has the responsibility of a leader.
agreed, agreed. So, so what, according to you, since you have so much kind of an experience in the automotive industry, and you've worked for so long, and what, according to you, are the key skill sets or the key attributes that an independent director must possess in the boardroom?
Whether it is in this sector or any other sector, the ability of the independent director to be independent, that is an utmost curiosity of understanding the business for which the board is convened. Okay, and the business understanding is very, very essential, and having a healthy respect for the executive team, because that team is actually in the forefront of all the activities. Okay, they bear all the brunt. So the independent director cannot be directing. Okay, the independent director can be a collaborator who works in improving the performance of the company through probably bringing experiences from elsewhere, okay, or bridging the executive team with opportunities which can be either benchmarked or emulated or even simply copied. Okay, so that's the one important skill. The second important skill lies in the ability to create a consensus. Consensus does not mean that you always agree with somebody. If there is a healthy difference, let's say there is a minority vote, a board of seven, and then one independent director has raised a contrarian opinion. Okay, instead of going by a majority of 6-1, if that can be heard, and if it has a merit, if it can be included in the, not just in the minutes, the conduct of the business and conduct of the board, I think that is a very, very essential skill that requires a fair amount of understanding of the dynamics of the boardroom. Okay, and then various human behavioral aspects of dealing with other people. So that is extremely important.
So truly said. I totally agree to whatever you've said. So, what are your key mantras of success? What you followed, or what you would advise to all the viewers who are listening to you?
Be curious. So whatever you are curious about, learn about it, do something about it. I mean, learning and just forgetting doesn't help. So it has to be contextual, and it needs to be beneficial to more than me, that is more than the person who's trying to do that. There has to be a larger set of beneficiaries. Then we will learn more, we will gain more. And the last but not the least, be prepared to be not liked.
Yes, that is so important in leadership. You cannot be liked by everyone. True. So, yes, thank you, Mr. Raghavan, for joining us. These were really wonderful insights that you shared with us. And as an expert in the automotive segment, I think shared so much of your industry perspective. Really look forward to interacting with you again. And thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity. All the best to all of us. Happy Navratri to all. Thank you.
Yes, happy Navratri to you too.
Thank you.